Of the questions ambazo mimi najua wanahabari wanauliza, naomba nizungumze kwa Kiingereza na Kiswahili kwa heshima ya watu kutoka hapa Pwani. So sijui, let's start with sema jina lako tena. Aya, introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joshua Muteti Munyoki. Munyoki is my surname, but I prefer being addressed as Muteti. I work for Forum Civ. I support civil society organizations, especially youth-based, youth-focused. We build their capacity so that they can empower more civil societies in Kenya. Majorly, as Forum Civ, we take the risk of working with grassroots organization. We provide funding to them, we provide capacity to them. And that is part of the so much work that we are doing in defending democracy and also in defending of the human rights in Kenya. Thanks.
Karibu sana.
Okay, good afternoon. I'm Cornelius Oduor. I work at the Kenya Human Rights Commission, the Deputy Executive Director. Kenya Human Rights Commission is one of premium human rights organization in Kenya. Today, I think we're celebrating our 34th anniversary, 34 years since we started way back in 1992.
Rutkia, are you able to hear what he's saying?
1992. Is it working? 1992. And I think all along we've existed to champion a democratic and a human rights state. We all know that Kenya has really been on the push, in the forefront to push for a human rights state. And our 2010 constitution did actually usher that kind of state in Article 4 of the constitution, that we are going to be a multi-party democracy. And Article 10 also expands that multi-party democracy to outline the key principles of governance, that's supposed to inform how state organs and state officials manage the affairs of this country. So the principles outlined in Article 10 are very critical in terms of underpinning our democratic dispensation. And I think even as we'll be speaking about the relationship of the role of civil society and media, that's the shared context that all of us contribute towards in terms of pushing the democratic agenda.
Asante sana. There is so much to unveil, and I know you're here because of that. Now, I don't know if Diana, you're there. Diana is supposed to join us online. Diana.
Yes, I am here.
Karibu sana, karibu sana.
Shukran, tunashukuru.
Naomba ujitambulishe.
Kwa majina ni Diana Nyakairo Gishengo, mlipa ushuru hapa Kenya na mkurugenzi katika taasisi ya uwajibikaji wa kijamii TISA. TISA ni NGO or a civil society organization that was founded in 2008 to help people shape decisions and priorities for development and governance. We were founded around the CDF project, but we are an organization that believes in citizen-led public accountability for good governance organization. We work on many things, including the rule of law, devolved system of government. We are known for public finance work. We work on livelihoods and especially right to food, health, and social protection, as well as how people get their incomes in this country. We care about inclusion, and we are a movement building and coalition building organization. And some of the movements and coalitions we run include Okoa Uchumi, which I hope is well known to the media, and especially the Association of Grassroots Journalists in Kenya. Delighted to join you online, even if I am very, very far away from the beach. My apologies for not being able to join you there. You are sounding very, very energized. Ndege zilinikataa na SGR ikanikataa. So naomba tu niwe radhi na samahani nyingi sana. Asante.
Asante sana Diana, asante, na hata pale ambapo upo tutakusikia vizuri tu, so usitie shaka. Next year ndege zitakukubali ukibook in August. Now, moja kwa moja kwa maswali ambayo yametuleta hapa siku ya leo, labda tutaanza nawe Bwana Joshua. Kuna uhusiano gani? How do you define the relationship between journalists, community media and the civil society?
I think this has been evolving from time to time. There has been struggles in terms of understanding each other, but also I can see a lot of fruits in terms of monitoring the government, making sure there is proper oversight in the country. I have seen civil society providing valuable data to the grassroots media and also to the mainstream media. I have seen where this data or where this evidence, which is specific, which is focused, inform larger discussions at the national level. For instance, recently when we've been having cases of government cracking down on protesters, civil society came in and provided accurate data on human rights violations in the country. And also we saw media proactively reporting on these issues. And I think despite not being at 100%, this relationship has evolved in a very, very unique way and in a very strong way that empowers the work of each other. Yeah.
Yeah, Bwana Cornelius, do you think we have good relationship between the media and the civil society in Kenya today?
Yeah, the relationship is not it's not bad. Relationship is good, though there are few areas we can improve on. But if you look at the role of media and the role of civil society, I think there's a way in which they are mutually reinforcing. Because as it were, media has traditionally played the role of informing, educating, and even entertaining. Civil society equally plays a role in championing for human rights and good governance practices. And if you go back to the space of democratic dispensation, then you see there is a way in which we mutually reinforce each other. Because in the space of information and education, civil society also comes in. Because when we collaborate, then civil society can be a source of information because of the work that we do. We do a lot of spotlighting of human rights violation. And this cannot be amplified without coming in partnership with the media. So that relationship has been there and is mutual to the extent that we need media to amplify some of these issues. Like now, if something is happening in a particular locality, there's serious human rights violation. Without media, how do people get to know? How do we hold government to account? It's only media that can bring this thing out. But it takes the effort sometimes of civil society to be able to locate where this problem is and possibly link media with the victims of human rights violation.
Sometimes when media, or rather journalists, do stories, we tend to not to differentiate between public relations and journalism in their work, especially when they're covering things to do with civil society or civil organizations. So I don't know if there are capacity buildings that you do, especially on thematic areas, to help journalists actually know how to do stories, especially on matters governance, and other things like that.
It's very important because the way civil society is organized, yes, we talk about human rights, championing for human rights, good governance practices. But even within the civil society rank and file, people have specialities. Like now you see TISA is on public finance. Kenya Human Rights Commission could be on transitional justice issues, those kind of things, electoral integrity. So for you to be able to really get the real issues and to be able to articulate them properly, it's important that civil society is able to transfer that knowledge or sensitize media on the things to look out for. And then how do we report them? How do we give them a human face? Because sometimes civil society can give out reports that may, for lack of a better word, a bit technical and might not be newsworthy or might not be presentable. So we need to find a way of ensuring that you are able to get what is critical and what the public needs to know from the kind of technical work that we do. So civil society has a responsibility if our relationship as to add value in terms of sensitizing the public and educating the public. We have an extra responsibility to sensitize the media on the kind of reports that we generate and how it impacts on human life.
I think, Joshua, you can equally answer that question.
Absolutely. From my experience in civil society, we've engaged journalists to train them on specific issues, including on monitoring the public finance management system, cycle, where we train them on how to look at the national budgets, how to pick up issues from the Auditor General reports. And also, we help the journalists make sense out of these reports. For instance, what these numbers mean in terms of service delivery. Diana mentioned something about CDF. Some time back when I did some work around that, we would link, for instance, let's say if the Auditor General gives us data on how much money has been lost, we are able to link that in terms of how many healthcare centers would have been built if this money was channeled to the right places. And also, we are able to see if this money was used to build schools, what this would have meant for the transformation in the communities. And also in the recent cases, as you have seen, is that civil society have been making a meaning of what is happening within the country. That what we are observing in terms of the current laws that are being passed, that are being passed in efforts to curtail or to stifle the dissent, and how that is affecting journalism, how that is affecting freedom of media. Mm-hmm. And we have been working towards capacity building, the journalists in terms of reporting on these issues, analyzing these reports, and also giving a diagnostic report on the Kenya civic space. So I think progressively we are getting, we are building this relationship, civil society more on enhancing the capacity, making sure that the journalists understand the subject matter on what they're reporting, etc. So yeah, that's our contribution.
That's amazing. Diana, are you still there?
Yes, yes, I'm very much here.
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever seen, or rather you've witnessed some of the gaps in newsrooms that you think the civil society needs to fill, and how are you going to fill maybe as a civil society organization? What are some of these gaps that we have in newsrooms that you feel, you think they need to be filled by civil society?
Okay, thank you, but allow me to just quickly comment on how our relationship with the media is. And I believe most of the times civil society and media are very aligned, because we both have a role of being informers of the general public, but we also have a shared watchdog role. So most of the times we align in that particular sense. Media is able to amplify the processes that we undertake for accountability purposes. The reports that we produce when they are broadcasted or discussed by various media stations, they give us insights. They also are able to further disseminate our work. Is the relationship always cordial or mutually beneficial? Not necessarily. There are times when we have faced a few challenges. For TISA, especially the last 2-3 years, I think we love the media, and we hope the media loves us back, because we mainly have been focusing on the cost of living. And it's something that the media spotlights. They even complement and give us insights on areas to look, because we have very many media houses in Kenya. So we may be reading the Auditor General's report, but the media is way ahead of us, and that helps us now not just analyze, but to think about the action. Do we move to court? Do we petition Parliament? What do we do? So in that sense, media becomes a very, very critical partner of civil society. When do we not align? It is when media just becomes the bearer of political news, and fails to be as analytical as much as possible, or is seen to be biased. It could be biased towards, say, the political class, or and so on. There are times they may amplify the negative prejudices against civil society. Civil society at one point was labeled as evil society and largely by the states that we seek to hold to account. So when that happens, it can be a challenge. Mercy. Sometimes the media, and I would love to hear, I wish I was one of the interviewers, there are times they just don't want to hear us and our perspectives. So I wonder, why is that the case? And a number of media houses are asked, when you have a panel of just politicians, they are a bit more sensational than we are. Who is giving the other insights, especially at a time when, if you just look across, whether it's United Opposition, the general government, all of them just want power. But power for what? For what sake? That then is one of the challenges. So let me come to it was the role civil society plays in strengthening the media.
The gaps that you think are seen in the newsrooms, and you think they need to be filled. How do we fill the gap as the civil society organizations?
Okay, I think I had already started alluding to that. One is to ensure that we have more balanced and nuanced reporting and analysis. And I have indicated one of them is where you see most media panels will either have the political class together. Then on one day, you all decide to bring all of us, civil society working on a certain issue, the choir. It's not even a choir. It is sopranos together without the altos, okay? So it becomes a very imbalanced orchestra. So that's one of the areas that I hope the media can strengthen. I know there are always reports that civil society does not avail themselves when called for media interviews, but on this panel, be it Forum CIV, Kenya Human Rights Commission, TISA, we are always ready to come to the media. So that is one of the areas that I think the media could do better, become very, very balanced as much as possible. Matthew, you and I are women, and our media is patriarchal. Males are the usual things. I don't know who even does those posters that are just full of men. Yani hata mtakangi warembo kidogo wakuje waongee. That is a second area that just needs to be strengthened. Historically, it said the voices of women, we are good for news anchors, but when it comes to analysis, mnasemanga tunakujanga na emotion. Be okay with our emotion. Men bring their emotions that are largely anger or something like that. We have more, it is okay. It is part of inclusion, and it's very much needed. Then I loved, and it's something that the media could keep doing, it's when we integrate each story, we humanize it with not only the macro level issues, but the daily lived experiences. It helps to anchor that story home. And all the times, and this is especially true for the Association of Grassroots Journalists, when you report on an issue or violation, and we clearly show, let me use debt. When we speak about debt, I could speak like Diana Owokochumi, a cabinet secretary who has decided that where Kenya has decided to dispose of shares, that story is removed. But the minute you go to your locality and describe what debt is doing to the daily lives of people, whether it's positive or negative, it hits differently. It hits differently, and I think it would also help to root our leaders to always remember who they are supposed to serve away from the macro level places and standing that they often take and forget the dignity of the people.
Oh, thank you very much, Diana. You've highlighted so many issues that need actually to be highlighted and actually looked into by the editors and the media managers, including the journalists, especially those who do continuity programming. But Diana, I can tell you for free that as a continuity presenter, we call you people as women. Na kitu mnatuambiaga, naenda kuuliza mzee kwanza. Ama sijui kuongea Kiswahili. Ama sina time, boss wangu hajanipatia time. So that gap is there, yes. But hata nyinyi wanawake ambao nyinyi ni viongozi mnatuangusha. I work with Media Focus for Africa, and we teach women, especially political women, on how to present themselves in the media. Personally, I train these women. And most of the things they tell us, mzee hajanipatia ruhusa ya kusikika kwa radio. Mwingine atakwambia, bwanangu akinisikiza milele, haki ya Mungu ataniambia nihamie huko. No. These are some of the things we encounter every day. So yes, there is a gap in the media, but women, we need to pull up our socks. But then another thing is the data and research that the civil society have. And maybe we can start with Joshua. Do you think the media is utilizing the information you have? Because I know you have a lot. Unpacking it sometimes become a problem, especially to the media while writing stories. How do we come together to ensure that we are making it easier for the media, as well as utilizing it in an integral way and also in a transparent way, considering the factor that we have AI in the picture?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the conversation is building up, from previous areas that we've been talking to. When you speak of utilization of this data or this information, you mean are they reporting? Also, is it making sense to the target audience? And I think in one way, civil society is contributing towards this. If you check how we produce our reports, most of the time, it is what government has given as an Auditor General report, which is filled with numbers. Civil society takes those numbers, they highlight areas of concerns, then they give it to the media. The uptake from the media, that one we can speak about it a little bit later. But I think civil society has done its best in terms of making sense out of data that is generated by government. And at the same time, civil society is able to generate specific issue data, like when they go to the ground in the grassroots. Civil society is able to access some of the data that is very difficult even for the media to access that kind of data. And I think we need to improve in terms of how this data is shared between the civil society and the newsrooms. Because through this livelihood, day-to-day lived experiences, that is how we come to make corruption make sense to a local man out there that we are telling that corruption is bad. That is how we make sense of the human rights violations when you are able to see what is happening in a family because of the human rights violation. Like for instance, in Mukuru, that kind of information is there. It is available in form of even specifics, details of what happened, and is available with the civil society. So there is a lot of collaboration in terms of data sharing that needs to be improved so that the newsrooms can make sense of what government is saying. Because most of the time, like for instance, you've heard the president saying that there were no abductions in Kenya. Everyone knows that is a lie. but a local man listening to a local radio, they will believe what the president is saying. It is the work of journalism using the data that is available either by civil society or either by your own research out there to use this and make sense of what the government is doing. Not countering government per se, but just try to shed light and oversight the government, because one thing we know is that the government never does the right thing unless you call them out. So I think there's a lot to be done. Civil society is doing its best to demystify these reports, to make sense of the financial financial reports, including the control of budget report, auditor general reports. When government released the State of the Nation report, we are able to make sense of that. Like, for instance, we have one that is coming up on the state of human rights violation. I think Civicus is going to be launching that report together with KHRC. And also, Forum Civ has a report on the state of civic space, whereas government, again, has an alternative report. So it is, all these reports, I don't think they contradict each other, but I think they speak to each other in one way or the other. So it is the work of journalists to make sense between this information and give the citizen the true picture of where we are at in the country.
Thank you very much. Now, Bona Cornelius, we are heading towards the elections in 2027. And of course, the political class have already set the ground. We've seen what happened in by-election recently. But I'm wondering, the civil society organizations, what are we doing to ensure the safety of journalists, even as we are preparing for the elections?
Thank you. Before I go to the question of elections, let me also weigh in on the issue of the challenge that I see between what we do and media in the context using two issues here. One, we are living in a very episodic society. So if we release a compelling report like what we did yesterday, Kenya Human Rights Commission, about the state of our economy, the public debt issue, the public wage, for how long will that kind of discussion be sustained in the public discourse? Because tomorrow something happens, that is what carries the day. So the very interesting story that was there yesterday is fizzling out and nobody discusses it. So I think it's either because you want to trend with what is running, and we tend to drop very important stories because there are new emerging ones that probably just about competing political interest. So that lack of consistency and follow-up through very important reports that civil society sometimes generate, like the report we were releasing yesterday, they play the role of public debt and wage bill and how it's negatively impacting government's ability to invest resources in critical areas, socio-economic areas like health and education. You see, this is a very important thing. But maybe it's only today. Tomorrow, we'll be talking about Gachagua, Soprano, and Goliath. That story, we are. So I think that if we are able to work together to see to it that these stories don't just fizzle out, but there's a way in which we are able to follow up, cascade these stories to different segments of the society, and therefore, what does it mean and what do people need to do, even as we get into these other spaces for public finance management? What does that statistic tell us, and what shifts do we need to make in our economic policies to address some of the inherent problems that we are seeing? Come to your question on elections and maybe how journalists will be treated. You see, elections they're not going to start next year. I think Kenya, we finish one election, we start the next. The president is permanently campaigning. I think he does not only campaign when pengine ameenda America saizi, but he comes back ako juu ya gari, si ndio? Goliath, I think the current name is Goliath, is permanently campaigning. Hata nafikiri last week, they already divided Nairobi on how they're supposed to, and how Ruto is buying ODM and everything. So this has been the story every day. Now, journalists find themselves in a very awkward situation because now they have to ensure that they bring the issues, but the politicians also want to use media to be seen to be doing better than, the opposition wants to be seen to be doing better than government. Government also uses media to want them to say that they're doing something. So the balance that the media must maintain is one of objectivity You can't lie to us that government is doing something and everybody else can see they're not doing anything. The statistics are there to say, very compelling. Opposition also cannot sell us hot air, because the problem I have currently with the political conversation, I don't see the opposition offering a clear alternative to what the current regime has. So all of them are just pushing to acquire power. But when you go deeper, who is asking these critical questions to know that you really have an alternative? And I think that's why sometimes you see the current regime can use words like Amuna Akili, because they can't be able to really provide an alternative idea to what government is offering. So it's just empty rhetorics in pursuit of power. And I think that's the place of media, to ensure that they also ensure that there's objectivity. So when you lose that balance is when you find yourself under attack. And I think Rigado already started saying that you are not covering some of these things, you are biased and those kind of. So you find you are being fought in between the competing political forces.
The attacks are there, yes, but now what are the civil society organizations doing to ensure the journalists, especially on grassroots level, they are safe and they are well equipped, especially when such things happen?
I think journalists, going by the role that you play in promoting the democratic dispensation, you are human rights defenders in terms of the very nature of your work. You are defending rights. And I think if you put yourself in a place of a human rights defender, then you need also to be a bit cautious on how you operate. Yeah. Let me use this example for lack of a better one. I think a week or two, there's this journalist who appeared to have been poisoned in some pub. You see, possibly he was pursuing a very sensitive issue, and somebody was following him without him knowing. So I think journalists also need to be trained on some of this basic security around their work. And civil society can also come in beyond just training, but also form a coalition journalists so that we know what you are doing, because I'll know probably you are covering a story. I'm the person behind the story. I don't need to expose you. So sometimes it's media who expose civil society actors. Sometimes it's civil society actors who expose journalists. So we need to build some kind of a mutual working relationship that ensures that our roles and responsibilities complement each other and we don't end up exposing each other, especially during this volatile period.
All right, thank you very much. Diana, I know you know we have a shrinking civil space and the political pressure is now stirring up. How can CSOs and media collectively defend freedom of expression and access to information?
Freedom of information. I think we'll have to be siblings, twins, BFFs, as civil society and the media, because we decry the shrinking civic space, but we must also note that civil society and the media have been able to undo very many bad things. When the signals for live reporting were shared by the Communication Authority, media responded in their own way. Civil society responded by immediately moving to court. And that case has been won. We got a temporary injunction, then finally the court was able to make that particular ruling. And unless we get legal reform that clamps that space, it remains open. It means we must have the courage to defend democratic rights and freedoms, because the fact that media remain courageous in the face of protest, in the face of threats to their licenses, to continue broadcasting, they allowed us, you give us the opportunity to know where to look, to go and document, to go and respond, and so on. So when that relationship is not there, it can become problematic. So it's the courage for us to continue. It's there in our constitution. Freedom of information, freedom of assembly, access to information, freedom of association, all those are right there in the constitution. The only thing is the space that there is. Are we feeling goosebumps? What do we do with the goosebumps that we feel when they come for us? And we've learned that silence, being co-opted, is not an answer. It is not an answer. It is that we must stand on the side of the truth consistently. Secondly, together with the media, and Muteti has just highlighted research pieces that have been done. The minute we keep saying that, I can assure you, I speak to people in government a few times cordially, a few times for accountability. And everybody would ultimately, in the long run, would want to look good. So the minute we indicate this, currently Kenya has moved from a repressed civic space. It is now at obstructed. Obstructed is the second last before the space becomes closed. The minute we spotlight and do proper analysis, for civil society, we do our stories, we make the pitches before Parliament, Council, Commission on Administration of Justice, and the media keeps reporting. And we should even go a notch higher and show the cost of a shrinking civic space. This country currently takes pride in the fact that we are a leading tourist destination. We are also a leading hub for investment by United Nations. They want to move a number of their headquarters here in Nairobi. Part of the things that they look is not just political and security stability. It is the fact that we have been able to fight for our democracy. So if we keep selling the value proposition of a free civic space, then we will influence, because government and even human beings respond both by incentive and sanctions. So we need also to sell the incentives for why we must keep civic space as free as possible. Secondly, I love how much media has embraced the digital space. Everybody has their own channels. In addition to your formal broadcasting, you broadcast a lot on social media, and then journalists in their own right have remained active citizens who continue to take up their role of reportive journalists, investigative journalists, analytical journalists, and so on. By the way, those little steps, they are not the ones that flooded the streets, but they catalyzed people with so much information to know that it is time for the people to take direct action. So those are some of the action, but we also have a strong role of monitoring for instances and measures that take us towards more shrinking of the civic space. The Cyber Crimes Amendment Bill Act that was enacted was one such, and the media was able to spotlight. Think about the many times the members of parliament have proposed legislation or amendment to try and muzzle our space. Just the reporting. Then with time, Kenyans take up their space as the true shareholders and taxpayers of Kenya, and somehow we are able to forestall further steps that would regress the space that we are in. So that's what I would share for now, Massive. And maybe as the part of where civic space is captured is in budgeting processes, the very national moment, Jamhuri Day, State of the Nation address. Can we do our own analysis? Can we do our own report on these issues that we care about and shape the agenda? If we do it, and media knows sequencing better than I do we analyze civic space just before the president addresses parliament? That way, it becomes an issue that they must address and commit to moving forward. And in closing, media, get comfortable. Bring us these things where you're being oppressed. We don't want to wait and hear that you have not been paid for 3 years by government and we are working on pending bills. We can help. And one of the things that keeps us going as a Kenyan society is, and an African society, is solidarity. Solidarity is knowing when to be a true neighbor, a brother, a sister to somebody else who is doing good, but they are constricted by certain things. Okay. So if we retain that sisterhood of solidarity, so we know who takes what complementary action. Our civic space will not close, because the power of the people is always stronger than the people in power.
Thank you, Diana. Thank you very much for the more elaborate kind of responses there. But I think maybe we should take some questions, because I know some people will start sleeping. But one thing I know, in the Kenyan history, there is freedom of expression. But we have never, as journalists, we've never been guaranteed freedom after expression. So that's one thing that needs to be highlighted as well. So maswali kwa
I
panelists.
also request, let's keep our questions straight and address it to a specific panelist.
Okay, my name is John. I would like to start by Diana Gishengo. She mentioned something that sometimes the civics CSOs approach issues with emotions. I don't think if that is the correct way, because when you're handling issues, human rights, and you come with emotions, I think you lose it. Number two, I'll go now to Mr. Cornelius. You might understand community journalists or journalists working in the community, radio stations or media stations, but your personnel at the offices may not understand us. I'm saying this because at times I walk in the to offices when there are media invites, but your personnel are like, who are these? Who are you? What station is that? You might understand, yes, as a deputy head or someone at the organization, but your personnel should be trained to understand the journalists working at the community stations. Another issue is on 6th of July 2025, there was a media invite at KHRC offices, and there were women who were having a media invite, and unfortunately that day, goons attacked the event. But we only heard you highlighting the issues of the attack, but the journalists were attacked, their property was stolen. What did you do as KHRC on the issue of the journalists? Thank you.
Let me get one.
To Diana, how do you measure the impact of your program beyond the reports? Thank you.
All right, one last one, you respond, then you go to the other side.
Human rights. Nina swali kwako, labda pengine tu tuelezee nyinyi kama defender wetu kwa masuala ambayo watu nafanya kule mashinani. Wanahabari hufichua mambo mengi kabisa, vitu vya huko mashinani kule chini, sasa nazungumzia kaunti ya Pokot Magharibi. Na nafasi yenu ni gani kwa sisi wanahabari wa mashinani? Manake sisi tunafuatwa zaidi. Tukifichua masuala kuhusiana na kaunti ama mwanasiasa fulani tunafuatwa. Tunafahamu pia nyinyi naye ni waoga kidogo, wala ambao ni human rights. Ofisi yenu kaunti ya Pokot sijui iko wapi? Haipo kule chini, manake tunajaribu kufuatilia masuala mpaka tukuje mpaka Eldoret. Kama si Eldoret tunakuja Kitale.
Mr. Cornelius, you can respond to those questions, then you take another round.
Two issues, maybe the third one. How do we relate with the media, and how do our staff relate with the media? I think because we appreciate the critical role that media play in the work that civil society does, it behoves us as a human rights organization to have some kind of a media engagement strategy. How do we identify media people? How do we relate with them? And how do they accord them the space to be able to do what they do? I know there's been some challenges of late because of also the mushrooming, they call it emerging media. Everybody comes to the, maybe to our premises in the name of media. Sometimes we had challenges of knowing who exactly is from a media house, who is not from a media house. Of course, there are those protocols that you'll experience whenever you are coming to an institution like Kenya Human Rights Commission. So because of even us taking security measures, sometimes it has been a bit of protocol and trying to establish who comes. Because some people come in the name of media, we realize they're not media. So, but we'll endeavor to see how we are able to improve on that so that when people have been invited, it's very clear who is coming. And if it's possible, get a list in advance of those who are coming so that people are not harassed. You came to cover a story and you find yourself where you cannot access a premise because of identification issues, just because there's a communication problem. So I think communication, attitudes, and building a relationship that ensures that we are able to overcome some of those embarrassing moments. Come to your question on the recent happening at KHRC. It was a very unfortunate event because this was a group of women who wanted to express solidarity with the young people. These are their sons. And this event was supposed initially to take place in town, in some church place, which we thought was central. But we got to win that all is not going to be well. So we said, but we cannot fizzle out. We cannot chicken out. So we had to make a quick arrangement to ensure that at the end of the day, these women are able to make this statement. Little did we know that there were people pursuing. So just at the nick of time when they were supposed to issue this statement, a gang of youth came in and forced their way in. So they were able to interfere with the press conference. It did not take place ultimately. But the rather disturbing incidents that they were able to rough up some of the participants, especially women. Some of even came with children, I think, and those kind of. So people lost phones, others lost cash money, stuff like that. But we've taken deliberate step to go down to know who lost what, and some of them, if they have not been compensated, at least for what they lost, we are in the process. I'm part of that, and I know that ultimately, for those who recorded, and we know the value of what they lost, they will be compensated adequately. But it's something that we need to pick lessons from and see to it that we also work on the security around. This is very funny because the people who came attacking knew the people whom they were going to attack. And the people who attacked also could identify the people who were attacking them. Only that we don't know whether there were people inside who are colluding the people outside. It's a very funny situation. That's Kenya. Now, West Pokot. Of course, you know, civil society, most of our survivors sometimes also depend on well-wishers. And the fact that we are not able to have our tentacles in all the corners of the country, it draws from the fact that we have sometimes financial limitations, and therefore we might not be able to be in every corner. But that should not be a serious challenge if we find ways of working through our networks in those localities, because civil society organizations are spread across the country. All we need is to establish who is the link, who is the closest organization to you that can work with us, so that when you are in danger, then there are mechanisms for referral. We've had situations whereby even refer journalists to safe spaces when we feel they have highlighted stories that are highly sensitive and they need to be taken to spaces where their security is first taken care of before we can deal with other issues. I think we just need to see who is closer to you and how can we work together so that when such arises, then it becomes easy for us to take up those issues and accord you the immediate support that you require.
Thank you. My name is Betty Sharon. Mine is a concern, and the concern is not going to the panelist, it's going to the moderator, Mercy. I think it is high time we desist from normalizing violence against women. When we want women to be in their position, we need to support them. When a woman says that she fears coming to the station, then there's something wrong with this woman, and we need to dig deeper into the roots on what is stopping this woman to come and talk. But when we say women should pull up their socks, women do not have socks to pull up. Let men pull up their socks, not women. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, our panelists, and I'm glad that we are having this. Thank you. We are having this conversation. It is a very healthy conversation this afternoon, and I'm drawn to attention to matters that have been happening to journalists that you are aware about, starting with Francis Kainda. You remember John Kitui, Habil Onyango, the list is endless and the cases have not been solved, or rather we have not closed the pages. Journalists have been able to document several other issues that you are knowing that are in the limelight, and these are happening to us who are seated in this space. You are our defenders. How prepared are you as the CSOs to provide emergency support, legal support, safe spaces when it comes to, my panelist host can even tell you where we run to when it comes to that red spot, and even to relocate us from that place. So do you have a mechanism? Do you have a number that is a toll-free number that can be given to us? Do you have a space where we are feeling at least to go safe? Maybe a kitty that can inanitoa mahali niko immediately as we sort other things, because it happens like a snap of a finger that your life is in danger. Ile yenye hatuwezi taka kungoja na kusubiri. What would be your response to the CSOs?
Great.
Okay. That's a very important question, because we saw it at the rise, at the height of the Gen Z, when there was a lot of abduction, Gen Z uprising, there was a lot of abduction, forced disappearance, and even journalists became victims. There are mechanisms to ensure that people are either evacuated or taken to safe spaces. The challenge I see is that there are various organizations, even within civil society, that want to do something around it, but sometimes coordination is a bit poor. So that the time that it takes for people to know that something needs to be acted on or to act on, there's a lot of back and forth, and that's how we end up losing or expose people badly. So I think Kenya Human Rights Commission was running a situation room in collaboration with the other human rights actors to just monitor what was happening and tracking the numbers and getting to know who has been affected. Through that situation room, we were able, it was like a rapid response mechanism to what was happening in the country. So this is what we need to improve, so that KHRC is there, the Defenders Coalition is there, TISA is there, Aki Africa is there, and all these organizations. But there we coordinate so that we have a central mechanism of knowing who is suffering where, have they been attended, and who else could run. But when everybody's running helter-skelter, that's how we end up not being very efficient. But there are mechanisms only that sometimes they have not been synergized properly to ensure that we have the necessary efficiency and effectiveness in responding to such issues when they occur. But we stand to improve moving forward. But mechanisms have been there, only that we need to improve them so that we are able to act in concert.
Do you have the toll-free?
I can't give the number now, but we will be able to share.
Diana, do you have something to add while we wind up? Maybe you can also give your final remarks.
Just a few things. First is a question. I did not say civil society is emotional. I say it is a bias that women sometimes are said to come to things emotionally. And on the example that was given, I think it's very okay. If you're dealing with human rights violation, part of what drives us is the lived reality. And that's just a fact. By the time you are interacting with people, say the examples that used to exist for Del Monte and Kakuzi, where people have been fed to dogs, when you're addressing the issues of gang rape in this country, I doubt you would function otherwise. But what I said was something, and somebody else has highlighted that women don't need to pull up their socks. The media houses need to create a space and be comfortable and prepare our audiences for women, how they speak, how they pitch, how they present. And if you think about it, if there are people who come with their biases and their emotions to the media houses, are the political class, and they're able to pass their agenda, but the judgment is not the same as we in civil society. Then there is a question that was asked, how we measure the impact of our work. We use various matrices, but increasingly we've developed tools for citizens to engage. We train people on how to petition government to analyze certain pieces of legislation, especially around public finance, the budget, finance bill, and so on. And it's not just us. So we are able to track how many counties are seeing people engagement, what is the growth in parliament, how many people are from what we've trained. But we are vulnerable enough to know some of the tools we develop will be used by everyone. This week, we just launched a module to help people track public procurement, whether it is the one that is advertised or it is the one that is set aside for single sourcing. That knowledge will be out there. We can track directly how many people have downloaded. Others tell us their story, but we will also see it in practice, and we also have mechanisms for receiving feedback and so on. We are also able to know when we are cited. We get feedback from Parliament, from the procurement agency. IMF told us our memos that were presented to the media and the Kenyan people have informed how they learned, how Kenyans perceive them. So that's how we measure our impact. And for journalists in particular, we've been able to train journalists on public finance processes, investigative journalism on issues of economic accountability and anti-corruption, together with Transparency International and Africa Uncensored. And part of that is how many stories are coming out. I think we can all agree that increasingly there is an interest to report on this particular area. It was not the natural area that we would report on every other time. So that's partly how we measure. I'd just like to add to the question of Pokot and note that Cornelius is the Kenya Human Rights Commission, the NGO, not the National Commission. The National Commission is the one that ought to be devolved. Initially, they were nearly across all the areas where we had the provinces, and they were expanding that. But we need to push for them to be at county level and be effective. Civil society, just like media houses, we operate on different geographies based on our reach and our resources. Then on protection of journalists, I know Cornelius will share, but I would like to share something that we are reflecting, because even for us in civil society as activists, lately, based on the scale and the number of violations we are seeing, there is not enough resources to provide response. There is not enough responses and institution. Last year and this year, we were stretched to capacity. TISA, for instance, does not do response. We mainly support people who are doing, see somebody like Rose Jerry, who was developing a finance bill interface. So that would come within our mandate. But last year, even ourselves, we found ourselves requiring to set aside some resources and respond to the many attacks and violations of different categories. But we have learned our resources are not enough. What I can assure you is there is a strong pool of advocates. Previously, we were able to raise bail for anybody who furthers human rights and democracy. Right now, even within civil society organization, that resource kitty is shrinking. So mine is to challenge journalists to also imagine what does a community of practice to protect each other look like. I am not taking the back away from us, just to let you know, the reality is we have to become more innovative about how we respond to each other, what solidarity we provide, what resources we set aside, because the resources are extremely limited.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Diana. Asante. Joshua, in few minutes, just your final remarks, then we wind up.
Yeah, there is more space of collaboration between the civil society and the journalists. And I believe this can be done by the continued information sharing. At Forum CIV, what we are investing on is building capacity, at the moment is with the youth-based organizations, youth-led organizations on risk and also in terms of monitoring. But also we need to put more effort in terms of calling out the duty bearers and debunking the myths that they are spreading at the grassroots level. If I was disappointed sometime when I was doing my monitoring work in Meru and also other parts of the country, you'd find the narrative the government was pushing that the Gen Zs are a nuisance. That is what was holding ground more than the conversation of, accountability and calling the government to account. So I think there is more room to collaborate. And of course, as Forum Civ, we'll be engaging more and see in what places or what capacities can we come together and have a more better relationship. Thank you.
Asante. Karibu sana Cornelius.
Yeah, in this era of misinformation and disinformation, I think for us, Kenya Human Rights Commission, we are very interested in strategic media engagement, just beyond covering our stories, but being able to work with media to inform the political discourse. Because currently, I think people are going to, as we approach elections, the young people who are looking forward to vote for the first time, are supposed to be informed, because it's them now to make a difference. And if they are going to act on misinformation, disinformation, then the governance challenges that we continue facing will be sustained. And it doesn't look good for all of us, especially the young people. So I think we are looking forward to engaging with the media, to inform the space, to give statistics, to balance the debates. I think we stand a better chance when we move that way.
Asante sana. Thank you very much. I think we've reached the end. Tunasema asante sana. But one of the things that I've highlighted is the collaboration, innovation, and data-driven reporting, especially when it comes to media and grassroots journalists. So I think that is one of the things that we'll take away. And on behalf of every other person who has been able to listen and to contribute in one way or another, tunasema asante to the panelists and asante to AGJK for making it happen today.
I request you remain upstanding for a photo. Diana, unfortunately, you're missing out on a photo here. But we've been speaking about AI, so I don't know if you're able to send a very nice photo of yours. Then we crop you inside this photo. But we really appreciate your insight. And indeed, there's room for collaboration and all the efforts that we are making, both in media and CSO, is shaping up the impact that we want to see in the community. Asante sana. So at this point, before we have the very, very last, inayo ni ya mwisho. We've been here for 4 days. Tomorrow is our last day. And the session that we'll be having after is our very last panel discussion for the conference. So I request us to still remain here. The session won't take very long. But before that, I'd like to invite Betty Sharon, who is the Executive Director, Collaboration of Women in Development. I'd like us to listen from her for 5 minutes as she shares the work that she does. Naomba tumpigie makofi anapokuja. Tumpigie makofi, tumpigie makofi, tumpigie makofi. Karibu sana.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. How are you? I am happy to be here. My name is Betty Sharon. I work for Collaboration of Women in Development, QUID, formerly Coast Women in Development, QUID. And we are partners to the Association of Grassroots of Journalists. I work with civil society, and I also have a background of journalism. I am happy to see Joshua Munyoki Mteti here. And when the issues are coming up, it's only that, Joshua, you did not mention that you people also fund women. Huh? There is no way Forum Civ can talk without talking about gender. Huh? It is not complete. Your statement is not complete without you talking about gender. But you and Cornelius, thank you so much. And Diana, that was a very, very powerful panel. I am mentioning Muteti here because Forum Civ is one of the partners that is funding collaboration of women in development. Collaboration of Women in Development is a grassroots organization that works. We are strong in the coast. We work in Kenya. We work in coast based in Mombasa. We also work in the Western and Nyanza. QUID was founded on the platform of prevention, coordination, and response to gender-based violence. That was in the year 2005. By then, there were very, very few organizations that were working on prevention of gender-based violence. That was FIDA, and by FIDA and Sauti, not Sauti ya Pwani. Sauti ya Pwani is a radio station. Sauti ya Wamama, Sauti ya Wanawake Pwani. And by that time, there was a narrative that for the women who are going to FIDA were the elites. So that is how we came in. And we are still grassroots. And I am also grassroots. Now, what are we doing since then? Since then, collaboration of women has grown to the extent that we have changed our name from Coast Women in Development. Cornelius, you knew us when we were Coast Women. We are no longer Coast Women now. We are Collaboration of Women in Development, QUID. And we now have 5 thematic areas that we are working on. We are working on health. We work on access to services, and that is where we have prevention, coordination, and response to gender-based violence. And we work on development and advocacy of ensuring that the implementation of policies, especially policies that support women and especially young women to get services to reproductive health rights and justice. And we also support developing the policies. At the moment, there is a policy that we are developing in collaboration with Mombasa County, and that is the policy of prevention of sexual gender-based violence in Mombasa County. At the moment, the policy is at the stage where it's supposed to be published. And we also work on climate resilience, women empowerment, socioeconomic empowerment, and leadership empowerment. That includes political leadership. We also work on education and human rights towards gender equality. Why are we here today? We are here today because Association of Grassroots, of journalist grassroots, we have projects that we are working together. We are partners. And not only the associations of grassroots of journalists, but QUID as an organization, we work closely with journalists. We have done projects of training the women journalists, especially in Mombasa. I was looking around and I was asking Dennis, he has just walked out. I think he has walked out because I wanted to ask him again. How many of us are not coming from Mombasa County? How many of us are not coming from Coast? Yeah, that's why I wanted to ask him. As much as last year, we also had a symposium like this, and many of us were coming outside Mombasa. For those of us who are working in Nairobi, we understand how we would like to have, when we talk of grassroots, we also talk about local, right? And when we are talking about local, we are talking about us. For the young ones, we understand the narrative of nothing for us without us, right? I'm not saying that you people from out of Coast, you are not supposed to come. You are supposed to come. But at least also hold the hands of those from, you see, at Coast Women in Development, collaboration of women in development, we also do mentorship. And what we are asking of you, not only to mentor the young ones, but mentor the young ones from other counties too. Not only from Nairobi, but from other counties too. So that when we meet, was it Mercy that was saying that you are looking for an information, you want to have a news, but when you go to an organization, you're still being asked, who are you, where you are coming from? Is that right? But why would I ask you, who are you, where you are coming from, if I know you the way I know Cornelius? Because if you are local, you are coming, we will know you, we will understand where you are coming from, and we will give you the information. Some of these information are not easy. You see, when we talk about the data, you have to protect your data, and you have to know whom you are giving the information, especially with the media. Media people get excited with the information, true or false? So when I'm giving you the information, I don't know how you are going to give that information out. But when you are from the local, we understand who you are, and I know how to give you the information. One thing that we, last but not least, the one thing that we lack also, the organizations, the grassroots organizations, is reaching the media with the information. Not only reaching, but also trusting, reaching and trusting. It's someone from the local who understands the issues of the local. It is easier for us. And we are very happy that nowadays we have grassroots and community radios, we have community media. It is easier to talk to them. It is easier to give the information. But when it is coming from the local, it is more easier. Thank you.
Let's give her a better round of applause. Thank you so much, Madam Betty, and we acknowledge the work that you do, and looking forward to collaborating further in amplifying the voices of the women you work with and the community at large. At this point, ningependa tusimame. Ningependa tusimame. Naomba tusimame. As we stand, we said that we are here to learn, and I am sure different organizations have different information. When FIDA Kenya was here, they shared different resources, flyers that you can take back to your studios and share with the community. And also, as we are leaving, Pale kwa registration desk, D&I equally has resources ambazo tunaweza pick zenye zitasaidia sisi na hata watu wakikuja kwa studio tunawapatia wasome for them to be informed. Great. DJ, ngoja kwanza. Chill. Ni wangapi wamekula kuku? Ati ilikuwa? Amjaona? Nyi mlikuwa mmeshiba. Mtu wako njaa hawezi kosa kuona kuku. Kuku choma kwanza. Yani kuku of all things hamuoni. Alright, so we will be doing a chicken dance. I know most of us know it. If not most of us, all of us know it. And I'm sure we can even dance without the music, right? Munaweza imba? Nasikia Paris akona Paris njoo. Move your body. Wala wako na watoto mnajua Cocomelon chicken dance ndio hii sasa. Let's do as our chicken is doing. Sawa? Watu wa kwaya, yes. You twist and then you, yes. Move your body. Watu wa kwaya. Make sure your body is moving. Get as many members as you can. Usiogope kumshika mkono. Move around, get another neighbor. More. Faster. Amazing. Are we now ready for the last session? Are we? Yes, we are. Are we ready? Let's say yes, we are. Trust you me, this last session is going to be exciting. Sawa sawa? Kwa sababu moderator ambaye anakuja kumoderate hii session ni mtu mmoja sana wa nguvu, and she will be joined by a panel of young people who will be having a conversation on how young people are reshaping the civic space through storytelling. So that said and done, I'd like you to give it up for the moderator of this session, who's none other than, mnataka kumjua? Mnataka moderator mumtaki? Mnamtaka? Great, so let's give it up for the moderator of this session, who is none other than mimi hapa mbele. Mnipigie makofi. Thank you, thank you. Mnifikie mpaka nifike mbele. Asante sana. So with me, as we talk about youth voices in media, na DJ waeke ngoma cause mavijana. Mavijana, si ndio? Waanguke nayo mpaka wafike, right? So first of all, help me welcome Gregory Barake, who's the coordinator, Salama Youth Hub, Ruben Center. Tumpigie makofi anapokuja. Makofi yake mpaka afike. Greg, tupatie moon. Hey, very nice, very nice. Karibu sana, Greg. I also want you to help me welcome Mulai Muni, who's the communication officer at TISA. Tumpigie makofi. Move zake zikuje. Great. Karibu sana. And lastly, we have Benjamin Martin, who's a community youth champion. Tumpigie makofi. Move zako Benja, move zako Benja. Great. Karibu sana, karibu sana. So for this session, you'll allow me moderate in English, Swahili, and Sheng. Sawa sawa? Sawa? Msione hapa naongea kizungu ati sijui Sheng. Don't try me. But anyway, I'd like us to begin with you, Greg. You can introduce yourself, where you're coming from, and one word that would describe you.
So we have a few minutes and I really want to hit the beach. So let's fasten this session. My name is Gregory Barake. I work at the Ruben Center as the communications manager. I also do another job with one salary as the coordinator of Salama Youth Hub, which is a mental health initiative that seeks to improve the wellness of youth in Mukuru. I come from Kisii, but I live in Utawala, which is the most Kisii place to live in Nairobi. And one word that describes me is charismatic.
Amazing. Tumpigie coffee.
If we haven't had the pleasure of meeting, my name is Mulai Muni. I am the comms lead at the Institute for Social Accountability, TISA. And I believe our ED, Diana Gishengo, introduced TISA adequately. All I think I would add is maybe our scope nationally and also at the grassroots. TISA is the convener of Okol Chumi. So we have 100 organizations and individuals advocating for prudent public spending. Then we have the two new networks, which is to Pigane na Ufisadi. So we have 220 CSOs in that network, and then 11 counties. And finally, the newest baby in the house is the Community Journalist Network. And a special thanks to AGJK for making that possible.
Makofi kwake.
One word that describes me. I like to be brief.
Very short and sweet.
Semeni one time.
Sio nyinyi mmesema, ni Benja amesema.
My name is Benjamin Martin. I'm a young storyteller, still growing at this field. And I've worked with several community organizations that helped me shape my passion about equality and social justice. And I'm excited to share this session with you and learn more. Thank you.
Tumpigie makofi. One word that describes Benjamin.
I like a better word because I'm a whole adventure book, yeah.
Unakuja ka package. Nice. So as you still hold the mic, I'd just like to know, you've mentioned that you worked with different organizations. How are young people reshaping the civic participation space when it comes to storytelling? This is both online and physical in the communities.
Young people are playing a very big role in storytelling because they make videos on TikTok, Instagram, X that explain the let's say the constitution or maybe the leadership and governance in a way that a person whose home can personally relate and feel the pressure that's upon them and maybe understand everything. And in the ground, we are having talks, workshops, spaces like Salama Center, where we have Tujibonge sessions, where we engage with our fellow youths on matters, governance and leadership and all about the civil space. Thank you.
Thank you, tumpigie makofi. Mulai, while you're working at TISA, what role do you feel TISA and other organizations can play in equipping young storytellers to effectively engage in civic and governance processes?
Okay, at TISA, I think we do this a very practical way. We start with the civic education. Do these people have the capacity to be able to read the OAG reports, to be able to break down in the information in a lived reality way? That's number one. Number two is, are we giving the human experience of these numbers? For example, if, especially right now, this goes to the media, we have become so desensitized to the theft that happens in this country, especially like if I say 1 billion, hiyo ni pesa kidogo, right? Nikisema 1 trillion, as Kenyans, we have become desensitized. So at TISA, we try to put the lived reality. For example, if I talk about 1 billion Kenya shillings and you spend 10,000 every day, you will have used that for 274 years. So when you steal from me, you're stealing from me, my child, and the future generations, right? We also make sure that the storytelling in terms of making sure that the youth are part of the process and creative space. For example, we currently have a creatives dialogue, creatives dialogue, where we bring creatives together, if it's spoken word artists, painters, fine artists, to kind of discuss how to participate in the governance process. On top of that, our content, we have to be where the youth are. We can't be having our papers and having high-level conversations in rooms. We have to be on TikTok. We have to be on Twitter. We also use podcasts as well. And then finally, I think I need to speak to the Okoa Uchumi Creatives Debt and Anti-Corruption competition, which has been running for 2 years. So not only do we have a space for creatives, but we bring them into the space where decision makers and themselves can have conversations on the topics of anti-corruption, governance, and accountability. Yeah, so that's something.
Great. Coffee. When you're working with young people at Mukuru, at the hub, Salama Youth Hub, how do you feel community media can help tell authentic stories to ensure that young people actively participate in governance, justice, and social change?
Thanks, Susan, for that question. through Salama, we are in the grassroots because we are right in the informal settlement, that's Mukuru. We reach out to the youth using peers, so their fellow youths. We train the youths and then we ask them to be ambassadors of what Salama aims to achieve. And through this, we have used traditional media like Ruben FM to disseminate information. We have shows, we have segments on the evening drive show, the youth show, where we go online and talk and air the issues that the youths are going through. It's noteworthy that Kenya is a very young nation. 19.8 is the average age, and a large number of the population is youth, and therefore the need to continuously educate these masses is paramount. Nonetheless, I must say that traditional media has not favored the youth with the introduction of new media. Social media, as Benjamin has said, and podcast is has been mentioned as well. We have ventured into that space as well. So as Salama Youth Hub, we've come up with the Ukofiti podcast, which is a wellness podcast, and it's greeting that every young person will ask their peer, Ukofiti, yeah. So through Ukofiti podcast, the young people are leading conversations on social issues that affect them. We are very vocal online, on YouTube, on X, where we address issues. I mean, Benja is a very good product of Salama and of Tujibonge, where we teach them how to be the voice for the voiceless, or for themselves, because no one else is doing it for the young people. So media has played a very key role. Despite being limited through traditional media, the new media has come in to amplify our voices.
Please pass the mic to Benja. Benja,
Yes.
Greg amesema wewe ni one of the products of the hub.
Yeah.
So how do you connect your personal story as a young person to the community to bring action? How do you use your own story to connect with the community?
For me, I've encountered most cases of police brutality. I was once arrested because of defending the rights of people. Kwa passage, there was garbage kwa school gate, and we wrote minutes and everything to the area MCA, the chief, and they did not respond. So we decided to do what they hear best. Tulichukua mkokoteni, tukaweka takataka hapo ndani, tukamwaga kwa ofisi ya MCA mbele.
No, ma.
And it brought change since last year. Hakujawahi kuwa na any garbage kwa barabara, kwa nini. And when they see garbage and hear from us, and even the local police station, when they hear, huyu ako na Benja, anasema, huyu achana na yeye, hajafanya makosa. So it really helps me. Like, I really appreciate the way people see me. And when I tell a story about police brutality, a fellow youth might relate with it, and he will feel that I'm obligated to do something about this. When I point corruption, young youths will, wataacha ku take place, they'll stop being given handouts and things and aim for like real change. So I personally use my story to bring change around my friends with like small things happening around our communities, telling them that it's not small as it seems, and they can do something about it. Yeah.
Great. Nasikia Benja jina yake kitajwa mtaani wasee wanatulia. Mulai, when you've been working with young people, what do you feel are some of the barriers that prevent young people from engaging in the civic space? And how best do they tap into the power of media to actively participate in decision-making spaces?
I'm smiling because, as you know, you can talk about something and disappear. Eh? They could be waiting outside. Shrinking civic space is definitely a barrier. And also the feeling that even if we participate in something, will anything change? As in, what changes if I talk about this? Although in Kenya, apathy has really died. everything is being talked about. The democratization of information, it's everywhere. But when we're looking at other barriers are they able to package that information to decision makers to be believed? Is the information they're sharing also, is it factual? So it comes to the point that, are we giving them, number one, enough spaces to sit down with decision makers? Are we also supporting them to ensure that, for example, they're leveraging, let's say, on our networks for core, where they're technical experts, they're people who have litigation expertise, and we're able to just like support them with the information and also the legal backing, should that Subaru come. And then finally, I think that visibility also produces a sense of you are reliable. So it's up to our media spaces to make sure that youth are part of every discussion. It's not a tokenistic vibe. Yeah, they have to be central. Because as you said, youth are the future, and they're quite a number. Yeah.
Absolutely. Greg, indeed, young people are this future that you're speaking about. So how do young people get to connect storytelling and use it as a tool to mobilize not just young people, but people in the community at large to engage in civic spaces, decision making, and participate in the policy making spaces?
So what we have done is explored all options as Salama Youth Hub. We have done participatory theater. We've gone to the streets of Mukuru and beyond, other informal settlements, Kibera, Huruma, Dandora. And we have had sessions where we have live acting, we come up with short dramas, skits that will bring out the social issues affecting young people, or rather the Kenyans in general. We have also done puppetry, using puppets to just showcase and dramatize. It's really good, especially in schools with the younger generation, that's the adolescents, to disseminate and do this civic education as well. We, again, as previously mentioned, new media a lot. Using new media, we have coined these stories and documented them and shot them. This same acting and dramatization, done them into short films, and then play them in social halls, in the communities, and have film nights, even screenings that we welcome people, young people, to come and watch and then debunk. Let's talk about this film. So what have you seen? What are the issues that have been raised up? And are you experiencing the same? So the impact of all of that is that we have more vocal young people from Mukuru on media. I think most of you have interacted with Toure's MJCAC and other youth CBOs from Mukuru. Very vocal people because of the work that is done through Salama and other similar like-minded institutions.
Great work you're doing at Salama Youth Hub. To you, Mulay, before you pass the mic, when it comes to young people engaging in civic space and mobilizing, you find most of the time credibility and at times authenticity is a challenge. And equally when reporting, there are ethical consideration. So how do we ensure that young people, young storytellers, when reporting sensitive issues, are able to consider some ethics?
I think I'll keep this short. There is a fine line between ethics and exploitation. Even when you tell a story, not all stories need to be told. Some need protection. So you have to ask yourself, is it kind? Is it true? Is it necessary?
To you, Benja, as we get to finalize this before we move to the audience, when you look ahead and also the work that you've done, what structures or platforms do you think are needed to ensure that the youth voices remain central in Kenya's democratic and civic process? You know, we are now heading into the election period. So how do we ensure that we are central and we are part of this conversation?
By building more community media hubs, like, and supporting youths in making decisions. So by that, I think the youth will play a big role in it. So that only. Yeah.
Exactly, more safe spaces for young people to engage in conversations. And now I'd like to pass the mic to my amazing audience. I know we work with young people. This is just a representation of the young people that we work with. I'd like to hear your reaction, your questions. Allow me to take 3. So I'll begin 1, 2, and 3.
Good afternoon. Swali langu linaenda kwa sijui nikuite Gen Z ama kijana. Ningependa kujua wewe katika saizi uko kwa ground na vijana wenzako, so far unaweza rate uhusiano wako wewe na wao ambao wanajaribu kukidhi mahitaji yao iko vipi? Na wewe kama kijana umefanya nini kuhakikisha hao vijana wenzako wanaiga mienendo yako? Asante.
Benja, you can respond to that.
Vile nilisema huku nje kwa ground vitu ni different. I'll just say that because everyone out here is unemployed, mostly the youths. But for me, I act as an example and lead as one. Being a beneficiary of Salama Center, na sharing the information that I have with fellow youths who don't know where it's located and what to do about it. And maybe where I can offer support, naeza chip in or talk to leaders. Like I know people like Paris, AGJK has supported us, and even Salama Center. Introduce them and give them exposure to the new world and show them that there is no benefit in corruption or maybe doing bad. Yeah.
Hi, good afternoon. My question goes to any of the panelists. I'm interested in knowing how you're collaborating with the youth, and especially youth who are influencers in telling stories, and not necessarily sensational stories, but using them as a tool to disseminate factual and information that is good for public consumption. And maybe in the interest of the space that I'm in, I'm interested to know, are there journalists or influencers who are in the youth bracket and they're working as influencers, and how are you making sure that you're effectively working with them to tell better stories?
Any of you can respond to that?
Yes, there are definitely journalists who are youth. A majority of them, with the likes of Kwambox and all of them on NRG radio. So we have a myriad of them. Just the issue is approaching them. As the coordinator of Salama, I've tried to be a linkage between the youths in Mukuru and other informal settlements and these quote-unquote upper echelon journalists and other members of the society that will bring opportunities to these young people. What I've done, though, is using the little skills and knowledge I've gained over the years of education and experience, is offer free training to youths, such as Benjamin and the photographer here, John. I've trained them on videography, editing, photography, and passed on the knowledge that I got through school onto them for free. And through that, I anticipate that they be trainees of trainers, so that they can pass on the information further on. How we are, sorry, the question was on storytelling. How we're using the youths to storytell is that, especially in informal settlements, art is huge. And as Salama, we love using expressive art for the same as well. We have an expressive arts show where we come and shade mandalas, have performing artists come in. I mean, if you've heard of Ethic, who do Gengeton, one of them is from Mukuru area. So we've had him come to our events and promote the promote the good things in the society to these young people, because he's influential, he's popular, and he's liked among the peers of his age group. So we've tried to tap onto the local celebrities, quote unquote, and use them to pass on the message that we want to be perceived by the young people.
Just to add to that, when I think about influencers, it can be a double-edged sword. Because today, they will support whatever you're saying, advocate for whatever agenda that you have, but next week they turn around and have a different campaign. That said, there are advantages to having influencers because they have large numbers of people and followers. But the truth is, for you to have an influencer, you have to have them be part of your campaign. You need them to have ownership of what is happening. So it's not a one-time thing. It's like it's a relationship that you have to continuously cultivate. Bring them to your meetings. Let them have ownership of whatever is being discussed. Let them have input into the programs that you have. I think that would be the way to go about it, because give and get payment type vibes, it'll get to a point that you might be on two different agendas. Yeah.
Okay. I'm seated here and a bit worried, especially the place of young people as we approach 2027 elections. I was really excited when I saw young people come up and really be the voice of the change, because they are saying they are tired of sitting back. Their parents have suffered. They are not going to sit back and watch this happen again. But the last 6 months and what I see now as a possible failure on the young people to move their campaign beyond the social media to now taking civic action in a way that can really give us hope that ultimately the youth numbers will count in terms of the direction this country takes. As a civil society actor who's really pushing for democratic state and the ability of the young people to have a voice in political decision making, what must be done? Because when you tell us that you cannot reach young people, you are not in TikTok, you need to use root friendly. What are we not doing, and what must be done to move away, to move beyond just social media mobilizing to getting young people to take action in a way that can guarantee change in this country?
I personally believe that you as yourself, I say that be the change that you want to see. And me personally, I was planning on getting some youths who don't have the voters card, go book them a bus and take them to maybe Huduma Center, and they get registered as voters. And I'd advise them to us to go to a polling station, like which is one where I can vote. At Ngolo, maybe someone like Ngolo and is in line, he'll get to wait at I end at home, because young people as Gen Z lack patience. So so by me seeing another youth or fellow youth being in the line, ndasikia that urge, I'll say I have to be the one to change this. Yeah, by acting on it.
This is a difficult one to self-critique as civil society. Where we fail, ultimately, is why should youth care? What is the what next? If you're talking about voting, how will it affect me? Where can I go and register? The next action. Because even, as you said, the attention span, if it's not in that 45-second reel and you have told me what the next action you need from me needs to be, yeah, we move on to the next thing.
Just to add on to what my fellow panelists have said, we already exist. So a project like Salama has been in operation for 4 or 5 years now. And we have, when I look at our records, each month, 1,000 youth come into our space and go, just to play a PlayStation, to play the pool table, to play darts, checkers, talk to the psychologist who's there for free, 1,000 per month. Now, why are you struggling to reach them by some magic and we already have access to them? And it's not only Salama, it's replicated all over Kenya. We have so many other youth organizations that have a good reach and touch with this in these communities. They are literally the grassroots that we are talking about here. Why not use these organizations that are already working with the youths to reach the youths instead of coming up with a, and that's the push that we've been having, especially in policies for mental health. Instead of government and civil societies replicating or coming up with a white savior narrative of what the problem might be, we're already solving the problem. Work with us already on the ground.
Yeah, mine is just kwanza ni thank AGJK kwa kunipea training. Mimi ni winner wa Mukuru Award Influence of the Year being here because of this. Nafunza Mayut Constitution mtandaoni, unaweza search TikTok Ngolo Sumu. That's my name. Correction, it's me. So my question is this: sometimes I face a very challenging days. Unapata kuna wale sijui ni wanasiasa ama ni nini, wanani threat, wanatumia message za kuni threat. So what can I do about that? Yeah.
Correction. All right. Anyone who wants to respond to that?
So, as I mentioned, solidarity is one of the key things. For example, when you have such threats, there are people like KHRC who lead in human rights defending. If you need, let's say, litigation things, TISA, Katiba Institute, all of these people are under, let's say, Okoa Uchumi. There are so many coalitions and campaigns. You need to belong to them so that you're able to also protect yourself. There are so many groups. You just alert people, hey, this is what's happening. And tutatokea. Yeah.
Hello. Okay, I'm Mercy, and my question is, okay, what will it take for young people to move from being invited to forums to actually influence power and policy? Alafu tena, hapo hivyo vile mnasema like mayouth wachukue kura, pia mnafahamu nini? Like, kwa hizo forums ama sessions, vile mnasema mchukue kura, pia mnafahamu waambie. Like, unaanzia hapa, unamalizia hapa. Don't just be like, atichukueni kura, tunachukua kura aje na tunachukua pia. We have never voted, some of us. So lazima pia mseme.
Na kwanza tuanze, umechukua kura? Umechukua kura? Aya, nimemuuliza Masi kama amechukua kura. Wanahabari wakaniuliza tuanzie wapi? Na narudisha swali langu kwa wanahabari. What action have you been taking to enlighten the public mahali ambapo wanachukua kura? Have we taken any action? Ati nini? IBC hawajawapatia kazi. Wanataka kufanywa bure?
All right. Kama wanahabari, nilikuwa nikifanya show inaitwa Changamka Morning Show, na jukumu letu kama wanahabari ni kuhamasisha umma na kuwajuza umuhimu wa wao kuvote. Lakini you see, sometimes it becomes so difficult to let the youth know why they need to vote, especially vitu ambavyo vinafanyika katika taifa letu ni vile vile. Mwaka 2007 yale yaliyotokea mwaka huo unayaona tena katika mwaka uliopita na mwaka ujao. Yani unaweza jenga taswira ya yale ambayo yanaweza tokea mwaka wa 2027. So ni tishio kubwa sana, all right? So ndio tunafanya jukumu letu kama wanahabari, tunawajuza, tunawahamasisha, tunawaambia umuhimu wa wao kwenda kuchukua stakabadhi za kupigia kura, lakini pia kuna uoga fulani upo. Mtu anakaa chini anasema hata nikipiga kura it is the same thing. All right? Yeah.
Before I give it to the team, as a young person who's always on TikTok, and I would really say young people are taking up spaces. During this period, ningekuwa naingia TikTok on my FYP, I get a post on Spend a Day with Me as a first time young person who's going to get a voter's card. Isn't that not participation? Aren't young people not taking up spaces? Unaingia Twitter, unapata mtu ameandika thread of the whole process. Mtu anakuambia spend a day with me. Kwanza OOTD, what? OOTD. Hiyo ni outfit of the day. Anapaka makeup, anavaa nguo, anaenda stage, anachukua boda, anapanda matatu, anaenda kwa the IEBC offices in the sub-county, anafanyiwa all the process na anarudi nyumbani. They were going live on TikTok, showing young people the whole process. Lastly, let's hear from...
Asante, nashukuru. Japokuwa nilikuwa nimelala alafu nikaamka, nashukuru. Imeniguza. Mimi ni mwanahabari na sipendi kwenda njia ya kisiasa, lakini tuzungumze ukweli, tusidanganyane. Tusihubiri maji wakati tunatumia divei. Wanaofanya kampeni kubwa ati tujiandikisha kama vijana wazee, mliona kwa IBC iliyochaguliwa. Wazee wapi kijana kama mimi? Hamna. Unaniambia niende nichukue kura, lakini wewe ni mzee, nije tena nikupe kazi. Mimi nipo wapi? Nafasi yangu kama kijana nipo wapi? Kwa hiyo ndio niliapply. Ningependa kuzungumza kuhusu kidogo, lakini sikupendelea, kuhusu wa Muthende na Newton Kalis kule Mbeere North, Mbeere South, Mbeere kule. Wanasiasa ambao wapo kule, tuliona kijana hata mmoja, lakini kila siku tunaambiwa twende tuchukue kura. So tunachukua kura, tunawapatia kazi. Sisi nyinyi mnaendelea kuwa na maisha mazuri na kuendelea, sisi tunakaa. It's high time we change the conversation, involves us direct. Wacha kijana akuje aniambie, we Joseph, nenda kachukue kura. Mzee asije kuniambia. Shukran.
Asante sana. I'd like to take it back to my panelists. Mumesikia mambo ambayo wanahabari wamesema. Hawa ni wanahabari na nyinyi mko kwenye media space. I'd like each one of you to take a minute and respond to either of the comments that has been made. Benja, tuanze kwako.
I'll start by acknowledging what that guy has said. But I believe that ukitaka change, vile nimesema, you just do it yourself. And if you are a youth, support peers, onyesha kenye unaweza fanya, ndo at least hadi ukaweza sema I can lead something, we can maybe see the work. Ama usikue ule mtu wa kusema tuchague nani. Sasa kama sasa hivi unaanza kujiuliza next election ndachagua nani? Know what you want, and when you know what you want, act on it. So on that matter, enda uchukue kura, ukue nayo na uanze kuji-involve kwa politics. Start knowing everything, because politics ndo ina shape everything enye tuko nayo about. When you start maybe getting a new perspective or perception of politics, utakuwa more curious and you'll want to know more and see maybe how you can work around you to change it. because there is a narrative enye inaendelea enye ni normal, but me I believe there will be change and your vote will bring change as a youth ama mse mwenye ako hapa. So anyone who is here who have not taken a vote, please, tukirudi Nairobi, kimbia uchukue kura na usikose kupiga kura kwa sababu italeta change, si ndio? Go be registered as a voter and you will enjoy the fruits of your. Na kama unasema ati nilipiga kura last time na mwenye nilimweka hapo hajafanya kazi aliniambia, change itakuwa tu, ndio? So my advice for my fellow youth, engage yourself in politics na mwende mchukue kura. Thank you.
Kabisa, mavijana wa engage in politics. If you want to be in the governance space, if you want to shape up conversations, join a political party. Kuwa hapo. Waki make policies, waki make manifestos, be there.
You see that anger that you're feeling, that frustration, that can only be resolved by voting. Because if you don't, you will continue paying taxes that will go to waste. We'll continue not having medical supplies in our hospitals. Capitation to education will continue being cut. So if that doesn't upset you to go and vote, I don't know what else will. Because at that point, it will be your fault. It won't be anyone else's.
I think my part in short will be, I sit on the edge where I'm a zillennial. For 3 days of the week, I'm a millennial, and for 4 days, I'm a Gen Z. It's a bit of a confusing time because I was born 4 months to the beginning of Gen Z's. Anyways, what I would say to everyone here, I've spoken to Pat, who has a 27-year-old. So most of you are either parents of Gen Zs or interacting with Gen Zs or Gen Zs. Give these young people the opportunity. Don't find solutions for them. Wacha wafanye vile wanaona ni best. Because it's their time. You see, when you had your time, you messed it up. Now it is our time. Let us do it our own way. Don't come up with solutions for us. And to the young people, as I always say and always tell John, keep learning. Masomo ina mwisho. Do a short course on Allison, on Coursera, ingi ufanye hizo free courses. Increase your portfolio as much as you can. Because these millennials still look at these documents. Umesoma hadi wapi? They'll still ask those questions when you're going for job hunting. So increase your knowledge base, keep learning, keep growing, and forever, one term.
Na hiyo mnafurahia? Hiyo mnapenda? Mnapenda hiyo sana? What we are getting from this conversation is our voices matter, our stories matter, and our vote matters. For all the young people who keep saying that hii kura yangu moja haiwezi fanya kitu, hiyo kura ndo tunataka. Hiyo kura ndo itakuwa the defining and differentiating factor between the person who's winning and losing. Utapata kuna mtu mmoja amewin na vote moja. So hiyo vote yako ina matter. And as we're engaging young people in our spaces of journalism, let's appreciate the efforts that young people are taking in their medias. It's interesting that recently nilingia TikTok, nikapata eCitizen wako live. Skia, You're shocked. eCitizen is live on TikTok. Wanaambia wase tap tap. Mse anauliza mimi birth certificate yangu ilipotea, what am I supposed to do? Tap tap the screen. Share the live. Tuma lions. Tuma gifts. So let's keep engaging. Let's keep telling our stories I equally use my social media to do that. When there is an issue, I will go live, I will post about it, I will do a video dancing, but in my caption, I have shared what I need to go out. If your audience wants to listen to gospel music, weka nini ya gospel. When you're sharing your content, look for what is trending. It will go viral. It will reach to the intended people. So let's embrace change and let's keep working with young people. Tupigie our panel makofi. Tuwapigie makofi mzuri, msikwe hivyo. Your nini? Anyway, that has been a great panel discussion. Thank you. Wacha kwanza tupige picha.
Venye na waviu angle ya side mirror kakilori nimejibebe majicha sigosani ping bado sipomakinika sigoe mra kumagonga diriha.
Asanteni sana. It's been a great second last day of the 5 days AGJK Community Media Conference 2025. And as of now, we call this a day. We call this a session. Thank you for engaging with us. To everyone who joined us online, to the guest who graced our event today. I know we had mentioned some of our other partners and guests will be joining, but they were unable to join due to unforeseen circumstances. But we actually appreciate that they acknowledge that we are here. And that's it and done. Tumemaliza. Naona Koya ananiangalia hivi. Ile unataka kusema. Kenye nataka kusema is that tumefinish, tumemalo. Let's meet tomorrow. Tuende tutafute our Swahili wares, and then we meet tomorrow and end. Tomorrow our session will be ending in the afternoon. When we break for lunch, we'll be done for the day. Then go tuchorwe watu watafute kanzu alafu nini yo? Hizo vitu zote, and then we will meet in the evening for the dinner. See you tomorrow and thank you.
Venye na waviu angle ya side mirror kakilori nimejibebe majicha sigosani ping bado sipomakinika sigoe mra kumagonga diriha country nipige hype ni track mamita.